So I've got the NWB with me, Nee Wallace-Bruce. Nee, how's it going?
I'm good, Kobe. How you doing?
Fantastic, buddy. You know, it's getting to that time of year for us where you and I just start to kick ass at fantasy football. And now we've even got the benefit of rolling that over and making some money with NFTs as well. So what we're doing today is we've actually looked at some of the middle tiers of wide receivers as ranked by Fantasy Pros. We're going to stick with Fantasy Pros. We started with the RBs about a week ago. We're going to do the wide receivers now. And then next week we'll do QBs as well. But we've got the third tier, fourth tier, and fifth tier wide receivers as ranked by Fantasy Pros. And this also factors in where they're going in actual drafts and mock drafts right now. Nee, you've got them with you, right?
Yes, I do. So let's get into it.
Yeah, so based on just the number of wide receivers in each tier, what we're going to do is we're going to kind of select maybe our two favorite wide receivers in tier 5, our two favorite in tier 4, and then our one favorite in tier 3, because it's a much smaller tier, of course. But we'll begin with tier 5. We'll begin with that group. And Nee, does anyone stand out to you just glancing at the group right off the bat?
Kobe, I've always thought that wide receiver is the place where you find gems. It's a lot more replaceable than running back. So, yeah, this is probably a more enjoyable tier for me than, say, other positions. To answer your question, Darnell Mooney, you look at the Chicago situation. I know they drafted Velus Jones this year. They didn't add anyone significant in free agency. This is Darnell Mooney's passing game in terms of target share from Justin Fields. There's no other competition. So for me, it's him. It's Allen Robinson. I know that he's going into a new offense over in Los Angeles at the Rams, but he's going into an offense that is actually going to be at his level. He was wasted for years in Jacksonville. He had the years in Chicago where he was getting the balls overthrown, thrown this way or the other, but not to his hands. Now he goes to the Super Bowl winning pass game, and Sean McVay's playbook is going to be the Allen Robinson that we've been waiting for in fantasy. How about yourself?
Yeah, so there's 13 wide receivers in this particular tier. And so you do agree in that they've got it right with Darnell Mooney. They got him right at the top, ranked 25th overall. You obviously agree with that. I'm with you there. I understand him being placed at that position because even last season, he was getting a fair amount of the target share. And that's when he had to share it with Allen Robinson. Now he's got to be the number one, 100%. There's no one else to throw to. And you're talking about a team that's going to have to throw a lot if they want to be competitive at all.
Mm-hmm.
So I like Darnell Mooney. He's kind of placed right there. Looking down the line, there's a couple of guys that also stand out to me. One is Gabriel Davis. So Gabriel Davis is got to be the second option on Buffalo right now. And Stephon Diggs is going to demand a lot of attention from defenses. This is not a guy you can just leave on his own, hope one-on-one you can cover him. I mean, that's not going to be the case in most situations.
Yeah.
He's going to get a lot of double teams. They're going to shift the defense to his side of the field. I think Gabriel Davis is going to blow up this particular season. So I really like Gabriel Davis. And what people seem to forget now is that Buffalo, for the longest time, was a run-first offense, but it isn't anymore. Mm-hmm. It is a throw-first offense with Allen. I mean, the running backs are there really to keep him honest when it comes right down to it, or a little bit of play action maybe later in the game. But for the most part, they're going to throw the ball a lot, and I think Gabriel Davis is going to benefit from that. And I also like Devontae Smith. And the reason I like Devontae Smith is because he looked pretty good last year. He had a year of development, and he has that rapport already with Jalen Hurts. And bringing in A.J. Brown, I think, only helps him, to be honest. I think it opens up that offense to do a lot more. And when you've got Hurts as a potential running threat as well, the linebackers cannot cheat with the wide receivers. They're still going to have to play up, which is going to leave a lot of room across the middle of the field. And Devontae Smith, as much as people knock him for his size, that's an advantage when you're working through the tight coverage.
Yeah, I get that. And I know we've talked to a couple of Philadelphians on the show, and they've talked about how this is a make or break year for Hurts. The front office has definitely set him up with weapons. And Devontae Smith is one of them through the draft last year. Now they have A.J. Brown, as you mentioned. So now it's time for him to deliver with those.
All right. So I think when it comes right down to it, if you had to make a pick out of one of these guys, you would go with Mooney.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Okay. And for me, it would be Davis.
Okay.
Yeah. I like the upside with Davis.
There we go.
All right. So let's move on to tier 4.
Yeah.
I'm going to run through them first, and then I'll get your initial impression. Mm-hmm. So we've got Terry McLaurin, DJ Moore, Deontay Johnson, Mike Williams, Jalen Waddle, Courtland Sutton, Amari Cooper, Brandon Cooks, Jerry Jeudy, and Marquise Brown. Who stands out to you?
Oof, this one's a little bit more complicated. In a pinch, I'll take Deontay Johnson and Mike Williams in the Chargers. Wide receiver is a position where I know that wide receivers on bad team or losing teams are going to get production because of the game flow, the chase of the game.
Yeah, but they don't get touchdowns.
There we go. So that's why I prefer wide receivers on good teams. So with that, Mike Williams is in for that reason.
Mm-hmm.
And then Deontay Johnson is in for the former reason. Good wide receiver on a not so good team. Pittsburgh, we saw what happened last season. Yes, they made the playoffs. I get that. That's Michael Tomlin's coaching. Mike Tomlin is a grinder. He hates losing. Let's see what happens this season. They went out and got a new quarterback in Kenny Pickett. And Deontay Johnson, he's now the guy. It's now his wide receiving room. Juju has left the building. And for me, that means that he has real opportunity. I know injury was one thing that held him back for the last couple of seasons, but he stays healthy. This is someone that's going to surprise in fantasy. That's for Mike Williams. I don't think the Chargers get enough love. I think it's because they play on the West Coast. But the Chargers, they could be a team that could be challenging the Bills in that AFC Championship game come February. They really should have made the playoffs last year.
Oh, yeah.
Some analytics got it in the way there, but they have a Super Bowl ready defense, and Justin Herbert's taking that next step. He has weapons behind him. They have what it takes to win a Super Bowl.
Oh, buddy, I'm all in on the Chargers. I'm a Broncos fan, and when it comes to fantasy, I'm all in on the Chargers. Not only do they have a dynamic offense, you're right, they have a sick defense now with the acquisitions they've made. Herbert is a stud, and he's your prototypical quarterback, which I like, which means you know what you're going to get from him.
Yeah.
It's not, this week he's going to run, next week he's going to throw. Like, no. Right? He's like a young Brady when it comes right down to it. So you know what to expect. And then on top of that, when you're looking at it for fantasy purposes, it's like, I think the whole second half of their season is dome games. Wow. I literally think they finished the season with like 8 straight dome games or something.
Oh, that's a game changer. Because, if they can get games like Chiefs and Denver out of the way early when the weather's still decent, and they can play those games.
Yeah, I'm gonna bring it up. I saw this earlier. It's disgusting. Okay, so at Falcons, at 49ers, and then they get the Chiefs, then at Cardinals, at Raiders, then they get the Dolphins, they get the Titans, at the Colts, they get the Rams. The last game is at the Broncos. Wow.
So you called it. So I mean, Week 18 may not count either by that time.
That's right.
Now, that's amazing. So all of the games are going to be warm weather or
dome games. Yeah, like it's perfect for fantasy, right? It's absolutely perfect. So, like, I'd be all over that, right? Like Mike Williams is one of my two. Okay, so my two are Mike Williams and Courtland Sutton.
Nice.
And I just expect Sutton to be the man that eventually Russell chooses as his primary target.
Now, what we got next?
We got tier 3, which is the smallest tier. Okay, so you've only got A.J. Brown, T. Higgins, Keenan Allen, Michael Pittman Jr., and DK Metcalf in this tier, numbers 10 through 14. Anyone stand out to you?
Like a good coffee, the cream rises to the top.
That's right.
And here we go. I guess for me, I'm going back to the Chargers. Keenan Allen. This is a guy who's been consistent for the best part of a decade now, and whatever reason people sleep on him. I think there's good value here. I know that he's getting on, but if you can have him for at least one more season of top production, he's the one that I like. I also like T. Higgins, but not as much because of the Jamar Chase factor. And then we got Michael Pittman Jr., who is the number one in Indianapolis. it has to be Michael Pittman Jr.
It has to be.
I know they run first, but at the same time, they still have to throw the ball, and they've had a quarterback upgrade with Matt Ryan. Michael Pittman could potentially benefit from that. I feel like teams will try and load the box to stop Jonathan Taylor. Michael Pittman could benefit here. Could be a sneaky season for him.
Yeah, I'm all in on Michael Pittman Jr. this year. I'm all in, man. I am all in on it. 100%, I think he's number one for sure. Matt Ryan, he's old school. Matt Ryan throws to the man. That's that's his way of quarterbacking. It's who's my best receiver? I'm going to feed you.
Yeah.
I'm going to give you every opportunity to prove you're the best. You're covered. That's okay. I trust you more than I trust the cornerback.
Mm-hmm.
Right? So I expect him to get fed. I really like him this year. I like that division, as far as what they're going to do in that division. I think he's going to have a lot of opportunity to get a lot of TDs. I think that's going to be a big TD year for Michael Pittman Jr. That's why I like him there. I agree with you. Keenan Allen's hard to resist too, for a number of the reasons we already mentioned when it comes to the Chargers, right?
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, he gets overlooked because he's not a talker.
Yeah, he's
right? He's real quiet.
Exactly.
You don't even realize at the end of the game, you're like, oh shit, Keenan Allen over 100 yards and he's got 2 touchdowns.
That's right.
I didn't even notice,
Because he's not as bombastic or as flashy about it.
Well, and it's his style of play too, right? He's a phenomenal route runner.
Mm.
He gets good separation. So it's not like he's having these highlight reel, like leap over the cornerback to get a catch kind of thing. You know what I mean? It's like, it's a nice clean cut, ball's in his hands. He gets a few yards after the catch, gets tackled. And he's not much of a deep ball guy either.
Yeah.
Right? A lot of it's sort of the second tier middle routes. So it really goes unnoticed. But then, yeah, you finish the game and it's like, oh shit, 9 receptions for 109 yards and a touchdown. Wow. I didn't even realize, so that's why he gets overlooked. And on that team, Mike Williams is the one that gets the deep ball highlight reel catches.
Right.
But Keenan Allen finishes the season with just as many or more yards. Like it's just one of those situations. So I really like Keenan Allen too.